No question, there is a concerted effort to intimidate and silence conservative thinkers and replace our God-given individual liberty with big government controls. AMAC, the Association of Mature American Citizens, is the leading conservative advocacy and benefits organization in America. AMAC gives you access to exclusive benefits and all kinds of great content. Please stand with AMAC at amac.us. That's amac.us. That is the Morning O'Reilly Update. More analysis later on.
When the flames have been extinguished and the smoke finally clears, you'll need two things: a team of experts and a fast response. You'll need ServiceMaster of Columbia. From initial assessment and content restoration to odor removal and reconstruction services, Adam Kinzer and his team at ServiceMaster of Columbia are always ready to help.
What is happening?
Broadcasting live from the Zimmer Communications World Headquarters.
Great news for the American people.
This is Wake Up Mid-Missouri with Branden Rathert, featuring Stephanie Bell, News Director Brian Houseworth, John Marsh, and Hannah, the producer.
This is why we listen to you.
Get ready, pal.
And now, here's your host, Branden Rathert.
And so we have to address this in a way that is about giving resources based on equity, understanding that we fight for equality, but we also need to fight for equity.
In other words, it's the color of your skin, Kamala. We know what you're trying to say. Kamala's very racist comments from a few days ago. If you got hit by the hurricane, we're going to make decisions based on your skin color. The darker the skin color, the quicker and the more cash you get. Matter of fact, 635 Arps is here. Might ask him which was more racist, the comments by Nancy Pelosi. We need the immigrants to stay and pick the crops. Or Kamala Harris saying, hey, we're going to give you your money first and more of it if you're black. Maybe we'll do that. Chris Arps, Missouri-based political consultant here at 635.
I mean, her comments are almost the opposite of the comedy audio we played last week, where John Crist was saying, hey, you know, I have this aunt who has this friend who has a $5 million house. Can you please pray that, you know, the hurricane waters go get all the poor people and not the rich people? I mean, that is utterly ridiculous. So now on the back end saying, hey, let's help the poor people or the people of color or whatever, and not everyone. I mean, that's the whole, the hurricanes don't see color, right? Everyone is affected. And granted, you know, there are probably people out there who need resources more than others. That's a given, but it's not based on race. Yeah. It's ridiculous, but it's almost comical because it's exactly kind of the opposite of what we played. That was a comedy sketch, and it was clear on the comedy side that you know that it was utterly ridiculous.
Who's the funnier comedian, vice philosophizer Kamala Harris or the comedian John Crist? Who's the funnier stand-up, Mr. Marsh? Who do you like better? Who would you pay and go see money to get up and talk for a while? By the way, she was on Colbert last night. Nothing even worth playing there, except she criticized Trump, you know, because the whole unity thing, and then yeah, marry somebody who's in Congress. That's the best stock tip she could give. So it's so bad. So FEMA, the Federal Emergency Management Agency, should now be called like PREMA, the Public Relations Emergency Management Agency. PREMA. You like that? You like that, Houseworth? I like that. PREMA.
I've not heard that.
Right, because I just made it up. PR, Emergency Management Agency. Dina Criswell. She is with FEMA. Cleaning up. And we've seen this happen a lot. We saw the Biden interview on 60 Minutes a couple of weeks ago. And what did we see on Monday? All these White House officials on the TV trying to clean up his stupid, messy comments that he made in a 1-hour televised interview on the TV show 60 Minutes. And his first question, of course, when he went to sit down and do the interview with Scott Pelley, he had to ask Scott Pelley, how long is this show, by the way? I don't know if that's true or not. I just envision it in my head.
But after he... There you go.
It's 44 minutes of content and 16 minutes of commercials.
Well, and after he tried to talk to a dead person and recognize a dead person, they took it over to KJP, and she tried to clean that up, and she had a horrible explanation for that. I think she made it worse. So now they're like, we're just going to skip right over her and go to the emergency people.
By the way, I hope these national news outlets, I think there's a lot of people in the national news that are incredibly furious at the White House because they're just not being honest. And it goes back to KJP trying to clean up the comments that Joe made when he was trying to introduce a dead lawmaker on the stage. When she kept saying, well, top of mind aware. And all these reporters are sitting there going, what? Do you think we're stupid? Do you think we're stupid or something? Just be honest with us. And they're getting mad. Reminds me of the time when I was, 15 years old. My dad found some empty beer caps in my jeans. He was doing laundry. And he pulled out the beer caps. He said, Branden, where'd these come from? I said, a friend of mine put them there.
Man, you were great at hiding your tracks.
I know. I was a horrible liar. And my dad just looked at me like, you think I'm stupid? And that's what those reporters I envisioned did in the White House.
Is that kind of like when you parked the car on top of the newspaper? No, I didn't sneak out last night, Dad.
Marsh, did I ever tell you the story about the time my dad caught me sneaking the car out late at night? I was, 15, 16 years old, sneaking my dad. 1971 Dodge Monaco. This thing was the size of the USS Missouri, man. And it was brown, and I snuck it out one night. and went and did what a 16-year-old kid does when he's stolen dad's car for the night. Come back home, get to the driveway, turn the ignition off, let it coast right in, 4 o'clock in the morning, get out, shut the door very quietly, sneak into the house, tiptoe up the steps. Nice and quiet. I get up in the morning, my dad's downstairs, he's got the newspaper, he's reading the newspaper, cigarette dangling out of his mouth. Without looking up from his paper, he says, "Did you take the car out last night?" "No, Dad, of course not." He says, okay. I guess the newspaper boy came, lifted up the car, took the newspaper, and stuck it under that tire all by himself.
Busted.
Slick.
That's awesome.
I know. And the way my dad looked at me is how those reporters in the White House are looking at Karine Jean-Pierre and Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. So now, FEMA, the Public Relations Emergency Management Agency, on TV yesterday cleaning up Kamala's racist remarks.
That we are going to provide assistance to all Floridians because we know that there are people that are just completely devastated from this storm. We are going to be there to support everybody that needs help. Yeah, again, Margaret, our programs support everybody.
Everybody. You hear that? That's like 13 seconds. We're helping everyone. Margie, we're helping everybody. Our programs help. If you are hit by a hurricane, we are helping you. It's not based on color, dude.
That is a kind of a direct contradiction of the vice president. I mean, that's exactly what it is. And keep in mind, they've got a big Senate race down there with Val Demings and Marco Rubio, and wow. I'd not heard the sound bites. That's pretty powerful.
They're being a PR firm. All of these all these people that are appointed in positions in the White House, they're PR, cleaning up the messes that the president and the vice president makes. And that racism stuff, I hope we're going to be featuring a story later this morning. About the number of Hispanic voters. And this was a story done by MSNBC with some very compelling audio chatting with Hispanics that were formerly Democrats and why they're changing their mind. And some of what the Hispanics are saying is the Democrats assume, it's insulting that they assume that we are going to vote for them. It's racist that they think because my skin is brown, I am supposed to vote for them. And I don't get... Man, for these progressives, it's race, it's race, it's race. Matter of fact, city council meeting last night in Columbia. By the way, like Walmart, it's a cool place to watch people. Airports, that's another good place. What are other good places to watch people?
County fairs.
County fairs. You know where a good place is to watch like progressives in their natural habitat? I mean, just full-on sick progressives. The best place to see that happen?
College campuses?
Okay, yeah, actually, U.S. Cap, I would say a City of Columbia City Council meeting. So, City of Columbia, they're talking about utilizing this they're not installing a surveillance system, and I think that's a big misconception. But this is a program that allows police to tie into, if you have cameras up at your business or home, you'd be able to opt in so police can immediately see your video to help them combat crime.
The key there is exactly right, Brandon. It's to opt in. And it was not an agenda item last night, although it did come up for discussion, but it was discussed in the pre-council meeting. Businesses that wanted to share and opt in, and as Scott Wilson, the attorney for the Downtown Leadership Council, pointed out, there is an issue there's been an issue of crime. Businesses are asking for some help down there, but they don't have to share the video. It'd be their decision or not whether they want to opt in. So primarily in the downtown area is my understanding from reading the multiple reports, but it did come up last night in the pre-council meeting and also was discussed at the regular meeting.
And so it was discussed last night, city council meeting. And again, it's race.
We find that there is a great disparity in policing, in the population of the jail, the demographics, especially the racial composition in the jail versus in the community. We also find a geographic difference if we look at the community north of the interstate and south of the interstate.
So cops are just out arresting black people because they're black. That's what she's saying there. There's a disparity in the number of black people in the Boone County Jail, which Brian and I toured a few months ago. By the way, kudos to all the employees and any law, any first responder, really, but working in the jail, that's a different animal, man. Brian and I had the opportunity to be up close and personal to that, which, wow. But to say, well, there's more blacks in jail than the people north of I-70, yeah, she's accurate. She's incredibly accurate. But she's asking, well, will this system, will it balance that out? My God, no. You know what will balance it out is when people, whether you're white, brown, but whatever color, just when you behave, you ain't going to jail.
Yeah.
That's all there is to it.
Well,
and then you got to ask yourself, well, okay, so why is there such disparities in those numbers? Well, you can ask, it's generational, call it whatever you want, but those are facts. And yeah, look who mostly lives north of I-70. Why? According to this woman's research, the jail, the Boone County Jail, has a lot more people from north of I-70. Look who, and it's not being ignorant or rude. These are simply facts.
Well, what she doesn't point out is that there's a number of people in the Boone County Jail who don't live in Columbia or from Boone County. They're from Memphis, they're from St. Louis, or from Kansas City. They're from other towns. That has always been the case, and that's been the case for 20 years at least that I can remember. But what it really boils down to is, what is the bond for the suspects who are in the jail? That's really what it boils down to. They don't look at, does someone live below or above the interstate? They don't look at that. They do look. They don't.
Yeah,
I mean,
no, you're right.
But let's point out Keith Comfort, who's accused of killing his wife and dumping her in a dumpster on Amelia. He is jailed. I want to say his bond is $2 million. Ballpark. For a while, it was no bond, but he's definitely up there. Susan Hannell, who is accused of hitting the motorcyclist out on Providence. To the best of my knowledge, she is jailed without bond. We could go down the line. They both are white. There are others who are jailed. The Loyal Martell, the Mosiers, he is jailed without bond. It's just what they do is they look at the actual crime. Now, not all of them are murderers. Some of them are in there for robbery, but the judges in this case look at the actual crime. They look at, but I take it as far as, I think what she's saying is the bulk of the people are from north of the interstate. I'm not sure about that. What they do look at is the crime, and also they look at previous criminal history.
Yeah, they're looking at the crimes, and that's why you're not going to jail because you're black. You're not going to jail because you're white. You commit a crime, you get charged, you're going to go to jail and be booked. Welcome to the show, Wake Up Mid-Missouri. There's Mr. Brian Houseworth.
Good to see you.
John Marsh is here. Highlight from City Council meeting Jeff City last night. Are you talking about those properties on Capitol? All right, a little bit of progress. There's Stephanie Bell.
Good morning.
Producer Hannah is here.
Hello.
My dear, sweet Hannah. My name is Branden Rathert. If there is something that we can do for you, 874-9390. Christopher Arps, 635. He's here in Missouri politics, ag tax cuts moving forward. We might cover that. And here's what I'm really excited about. 710 this morning, Mazzie Boyd, if elected in the Missouri House of Representatives, 2nd District, Northwest Missouri, she would be, if not the youngest, at least one of the top 2 or 3 youngest representatives at the age of 24 ever in the Missouri House. She joins us on the show, 7:10 this morning on Wake Up Mid-Missouri. We're getting ready for the daily D.C. rundown. What's underneath the circus tent, Steph?
Some allegations in the Georgia
I have no idea, but it is a flat-out lie. And now you know how important this seat is. This seat is very important, that they'll do anything to win this seat, lie, because they want to make it by everything else except what the true problems that we have in this country is. This inflation, the border wide open, crime.
That's Herschel Walker last night. Sean Hannity's show on Fox TV. He's here on the radio station today at 2 o'clock. Herschel Walker, after claims, allegations, what have you, came out that he actually paid for an ex-girlfriend to get an abortion about 13 years ago. And that's getting us into today's Daily D.C. Rundown with Stephanie Bell.
Herschel Walker is the Republican nominee for U.S. Senate in Georgia. These allegations came out yesterday, and I think we talked a little bit yesterday about candidate quality.
Yep.
And so these allegations have been made. He, of course, is maintaining that they are a flat-out lie, but apparently the woman that spoke with the Daily Beast came forward. She has a receipt showing a $575 payment for an abortion procedure, a Get Well card from Walker, and then a personal check from Walker $700 just 5 days after the abortion.
So you have an allegation, but you also have
the receipts.
And you have the son of
that
Herschel.
That is wild. What did he say?
So Christian is Herschel Walker's son. He's like, Dad, quit lying. Dude.
On Twitter, right?
On Twitter, yeah. He says, every family member of Herschel Walker asked him not to run for office because we all knew about his past. Every single one. He did it anyway. Another tweet. Not long after that, I know my mom and I would really appreciate if my father, Herschel Walker, stopped lying and making a mockery of us. You're not a family man when you left us to hang out with a bunch of women, threaten to kill us.
Yikes.
Yeah, so
it's not looking good.
Okay, so the allegation, the receipt, and
the son.
Yeah.
Well, a lot of folks in races right now are either leaning in or kind of leaning out from different issues. And so right now in Nevada, Laxalt is leaning into his military service, and papers are picking this up and saying, hey, he really didn't do that in the primary, but now in the general, he's distinguishing himself, which I think makes sense. I think the really interesting thing is there is a lot of Republican candidates who ran as, I'm the most pro-life person ever in the primary, and some folks have even gone so far as kind of scrubbing that off of their website during the general. So as you say, that Dobbs decision, I think, is really affecting how people are coming at the midterms.
Have you heard what they're doing over in Illinois now?
No.
Oh my God. Well, let's do that at 6:35.
Okay, lots of Supreme Court news. They are going to take up an Alabama redistricting case. Yesterday, they were talking about an environmental case. And do we have time here about the Onion? This one's good.
Okay.
The Onion actually filed a brief in the Supreme Court.
The Onion is a political satirical website.
And they want to protect their ability to do parodies. And they filed a brief. They did call the federal judiciary total Latin dorks. So their brief is entertaining in and of itself, but I find that awesome.
We'll have more on this, I think, 7:35. Who's actually running the Supreme Court now? We'll also do that at 7:35.
Camelback Family Planning in Phoenix is now giving patients ultrasounds in Arizona, then getting them a prescription for an abortion pill through a California doctor using a telehealth appointment. But Arizona's banned mailing the pills, so pills meant for the Phoenix patients will be shipped to a post office in a California border town for pickup, and it's all free. The clinic says the process is being paid for by the Abortion Fund of Arizona.
So it's like abortion via Uber or Lyft. You don't have to actually go anywhere and do that stuff. We'll bring it right to you. And then have you heard what they're doing in Illinois? This on the heels last night, apparently, in as far as, well, and this is national politics, too, not just Georgia politics, but Herschel Walker, Republican candidate for Senate, Georgia, facing an incumbent Democrat, maybe a marginal candidate at best. I mean, says all the right things, checks all the boxes for a conservative. It had a lot of questions, marginal candidate at best. Back to your point of, you know, some of these candidates that have been put forward just aren't the best. Would you put Sarah Palin in that group?
I heard someone once say, you know, Republicans have a way of like looking at a big bowl of apples and picking the one with the brown spot on it. Like just not always picking the best candidate to go forward. And sometimes, you know, the Democrats get involved and put money forward and try to get us to pick the wrong candidate. And sometimes we do. Luckily in Missouri, we did the right thing, I believe, in the Senate race and have a strong candidate going forward. Yep. But not all states were so lucky.
Yeah, we are very fortunate in Missouri that Eric Schmidt will be the senator that will replace Roy Blunt. So it's come out that Herschel Walker, who's spoken out against abortion and all this, it's been revealed that he allegedly fathered a child and paid for an abortion. Receipts to back up those claims. And a pissed off son, by the way, who says, Dad, why are you lying, man?
Yeah.
Why are you lying? So you have that story. So Arizona, you can do all this. You can get, it's like an abortion through Uber or Lyft. Then we go about 120 miles to the east of us, Illinois. You see what Illinois is doing?
I can't even, no.
And did you see this, Marsh? Yeah. So, and this is one of those things, I think, is that when you hear, oh, they're going to start doing this, you always say, it'll never happen. And then it's happening. So we used to hear, you know, abortions on wheels. Oh, come on. Nobody will ever do that. It's being done.
They got an RV, and they're driving it close to the border, particularly close to states where abortion is not legal. And that way to cut down on your time because, you know, it's inconvenient for you to have to drive. So they're getting close to the border, and they're doing the abortion on an RV. Actually, and I will say, I'm like, are they really doing the surgery? And it does say right now they are only doing like the consult and they're doing the medication abortions, but that they have plans to actually do the abortion procedure on the RV. Planned Parenthood will aim to start providing surgical abortions at the clinic, quote unquote, RV clinic, after the first few months.
It's a food truck. They're doing abortions in a food truck.
What medical procedure would you want to get on an RV? Abortion or otherwise. Like if you had that option,
John, would you even go to like an American, and I love American Red Cross, love donating blood whenever I can. I don't even know if I would get onto a food truck to give blood to the American Red Cross.
This is a surgery. A surgery.
Man,
Mm-hmm. And these are the same people who say their highest concern is the health of the mother, and yet you're going to perform a surgery on an RV. I can't.
The truck pulls up. Hey, we're here for your 3:00 abortion.
Oh my gosh.
God. I think, Marsh, the way you put it's creepy. It is really creepy. I will barely even buy food from a food truck, and we are blessed in mid-Missouri. We are pretty well known for some of our food trucks, man. We really are. I don't even know if I'd buy food from a food truck.
It's like that gas station that was offering vaccines, you know, during COVID. And I was like, there are just some things that you shouldn't get from a gas station. And like, you know, shots, vaccines are one of them. And
hurry up. You're late for your 3:00.
I just can't.
Oh, God. Oh, that's crazy. That's in Illinois. So then I'm wondering, so what's next? So Arizona, they're like Ubering and lifting abortions to you. In Illinois, they got a food truck driving around the whole rim of Illinois, doling out abortions, and it makes me wonder, what is next? Welcome into the show.
Yeah, and I mean, you just think about, healthcare is important, and I think for a long time, I thought, wouldn't it be nice to have like old school doctors like on call for primary care and be able to get the healthcare you need at your house or wherever, and so the fact that, people who are dealing with real, like serious issues, cancer, other surgeries like diabetes, these kinds of things have trouble, in their own hometown accessing, good health care. And I think in mid-Missouri, we're fortunate that we have really good access. But there are people who struggle getting necessary everyday care, and these folks are focused on running an RV and making sure people get abortions. What about just like primary care, just everyday folks who need it?
Misaligned priorities. We talk about healthcare access in rural communities, whether it's Illinois or right here in Missouri, man. You get up into some of the northern confines, you get up close to Iowa, and there's not a whole lot shaking in some of our northern counties.
Yeah, let's get an RV and make sure people who need dialysis are getting it. Those kinds of things. It just, the money that they're spending to make sure people, and you can say what you want about, whether or not, arguably abortion is not a necessary procedure, and diabetes is something that, whether or not how you get it. Anyway, let's spend our money on actual healthcare issues every day that are affecting millions and millions of people, please.
874-9390. 874-9390. Welcome to the show. It's Wake Up Mid-Missouri. There's a very passionate Stephanie Bell.
Good morning.
There's a giggly John Marsh. Giggly, that sounds so cute. Producer Hannah is here. Brian Hausworth is here. My name is Branden Rathert. I do hope you'll join us 710. Mazzie Boyd, if elected the Missouri House of Representatives 2nd District, she would be one of the youngest reps ever. I think she was like 23 when she filed to run. She beat an incumbent. She challenged a Republican in the primary back in August and won. I love this because one of the things I'm really big on is messaging to a younger generation, because my dad's going to die soon. I'm 51. I'm going to die before you, Steph. And it's up to you and producer Hannah to carry the torch of good conservative values after I pass.
No pressure.
874-9390. David, welcome to the show. Are you in the state of California this morning?
Sure am.
All right. What's going on? What can we do for you?
Well, we certainly do need to pray for the Supreme Court justices that are doomed to hell. Because as you probably know...
Who's doomed to hell? Which one of them are doomed to hell?
The ones that voted for the abortion ban.
Okay, it wasn't an abortion ban, David, is what they said, is these are states' rights. There's no abortion ban.
All right. So, as you know, the Bible says 0 against abortions. And so they are doomed to hell because they've pretended that the Bible says that there is something against abortions.
They're passing, David, thank you for the phone call. They're passing down legal decisions based on the law and the Constitution. They're not pulling from the Bible. How did a California caller get through this morning? I love it. You can listen on the app.
We try to tell people that, Wake Up Columbia, you can listen from anywhere. People like to listen on vacation, but wide-reaching audience here.
You can listen on, download the app. It is free. You can download the 93.9 The Eagle app from the website. You can download the KWOS app from the website. It's free. It's easy. You can also watch the show. What's the best way to watch, Hannah?
Our YouTube channel, Wake Up in Missouri.
And you can get some behind-the-scenes stuff. You can see some of the things that happen during the commercial breaks, by the way.
You can occasionally see my makeup routine.
See the makeup routine. See a lot of times I'm in here changing clothes and stuff like that in between. So a lot of things
reaching for your glasses when you can't find them.
I'm doing the Macarena in here looking for these shades.
For sure.
By the way, Chris Arps not here today. We thought he was going to be here, but he's actually bailed out. A block.
Wow.
What?
Way to throw him right under the bus.
Did that sound bad?
A little bit.
What did I say?
Said he bailed out.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I didn't mean it to sound that way. Oh, God.
Oh, no.
We threw him under the food truck. Man. Marsh points. We'll dole those out 8:35 here on a Feel Good Friday. 35 days until the election. Is your photo ID up to date? I know most of us, we probably all have a photo ID. Is it up to date? Expired IDs are getting folks.
Points for Rick. Did you see Rick's text?
Uh-uh.
I think murder is in the Bible. Thanks, Rick, for that.
Referring to our California
Caller.
caller, murders in the Bible. Man. Sean.
I don't have Sean. I have Austin. Has that clown from California ever heard of the 10 Commandments?
Thou shalt not kill. I guess that guy missed a little part in the Bible that says, yeah, thou shalt not kill.
Yikes.
35 days away from the election. Make sure your picture ID is up to date, because we're all saying we got our IDs, but when was the last time you looked at your expiration date? Apparently, state of Missouri will send you a reminder whenever your ID is.
Yes, and I think we questioned that before, because I knew you used to get a postcard, but it's been a while since I got one. But my husband let me know he just had to renew, and he did get the postcard. But especially if you've moved addresses, I've had that happen before and gotten close to my renewal date. So yes, you freaked me out the other day, and I actually pulled out my ID. I'm like, okay, am I good? So if you haven't looked, please look.
Do you know who this guy is?
The hope is to get viewers like you more involved and empowered. That's why I'm at News Nation.
All right, who is that? Been a while since we've heard from that dude. We'll figure out who that is coming up about 5 minutes from now. Here on Wake Up Mid-Missouri on 93.9 The Eagle and News Radio 104.5 KWOS.
The hope is to get viewers like you more involved and empowered. That's why I'm at News Nation. It's new. No groupthink established here. No audience that has been conditioned to favor one team or ideology.
Agree with that last part, but I want to go back to the part where this dude is saying, do you recognize that voice, by the way? You know who that is, Marsh? Can you hear it? No? Steph?
No.
No? All right,
The hope is to get viewers like you more involved and empowered. That's why I'm at News Nation.
Well, no, you're not at News Nation because of that. You're at News Nation because you got fired from your job on CNN, Chris Cuomo, for helping your brother. That's why I'm on News Nation, to bring you, the people, the message. No, you're on News Nation because you lost your job. You were fired. And bills and kids that like to eat and your gym membership fees, dude. You're not there. Don't get self-righteous on us and say, well, I'm here to bring the people the message. Blah, 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 blah. He got fired from CNN. By the way, I disagree for the reason he was fired, for helping his brother out. I would help out if I don't see, and I'll rely on you, bud. You're more ethical than I am. But I would think if anybody at this radio station or any media outlet used what's at their disposal to help a family member, I don't see a problem with that. I don't know why you got fired from CNN. Am I wrong? Yeah. Well, the politics and all that, you'd be fired for a lot of reasons, but for, I do agree with what Chris Cuomo is saying here.
No groupthink established here. No.
So he's saying, listen, this is not Fox, this is not MSNBC, this is not CNN. There's no groupthink. There's no, we're tuning in because we want to hear what we want to hear. I want to hear political ideologies that agree with what I already think. And I want to hear somebody rail on Democrats for an hour in the morning on Fox TV. I want to hear Joe Scarborough complain about Republicans for an hour. There's none of that here. This is just the news. Will that work? You know why the news tells you what you want to hear? Because it works. People watch it. And then they sell a whole lot of advertising. And you get these new, and CNN, and I'll tell you, man, I got to give CNN a little bit of credit. Several months ago, they started cleaning out their closet, getting rid of some of these really far progressives. Brian Stelter, they found a good reason to get rid of Chris Cuomo and say, we want to go more factual. Not there yet, but they are actually getting better. But that's why these news outlets, they're slanted. They tell you what you want to hear because you watch. They sell advertising because you're watching, and then you buy products. You buy Mike Lindell's My Pillows. You buy whatever it is that's on there. And that's why the cable news outlets, they do what they do. They tell you what you want to hear because it works for ratings and it helps them to make money. All right, let's move on to Chris Cuomo on News Nation now. Halloween, you guys, Marsh, you like to dress up for Halloween? Yeah. I was telling Steph last time I dressed up for Halloween was like 6 years ago, last minute. And I was just I do not enjoy dressing up. I really don't.
Me neither.
I shaved like half my face and put on makeup, went half chick, half dude. The night did not end well. You don't like dressing up for? See, that you strike me as somebody who would love to dress up for Halloween.
I love like a good theme party. Like I love going like 80s or 90s or like Kentucky Derby or whatever, but I don't love like costumes. And I have 5 Really? I have 5 people, so it's also like a very expensive month for me, right? Like, and yeah, lots of decisions.
What do you like to go as if you do go as something, John? a legendary.
Yeah, legendary.
Yeah, dinosaur, legend. I get it. Top trending costumes?
Yeah, so Pinterest is saying, like, you know, what costumes are people interested in based on, you know, how many people are searching and pinning. So they're saying Hocus Pocus made the list. Number 8, Hannah.
I'm not surprised.
Specifically, Danny. Is that the hot sister?
No, Danny is like the kid from the first movie, the teenage boy.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay. I like Avril Lavigne. She's having a comeback, and I love that.
I don't know. She had a couple of minor big hits back in the early 2000s. Don't know why she's on there. Yeah.
The costume I ordered for Chris and I this year is on the list.
Yeah.
Top Gun.
That's on everybody's list.
I know. I ordered like little flight suits. So Southern Boone does like a 5K, so you have to be able to run in your costume or walk. At least I don't run much these days. And so I figured that would be one that like I could move around in. I like number 2. Did you see number 2?
I did, but I don't know who it is.
What?
Patrick Bateman?
No, that's number 3.
Oh.
Number 2, Elvis and Priscilla, because the new Elvis movie came out this year. I like that. And then Stranger Things. Those people are like a cult. I'm not in that cult, but I can see.
My favorite Halloween costume is, matter of fact, I've been invited to a political fundraiser with a Halloween-themed costume.
Oh.
I'm going as the Vanishing Man. Mazzie Boyd, 24-year-old running for the House, joins the 7.
provide ARPA funds to helping people like this with violence prevention and mental health care in a shelter instead of a stormwater park for the business loop and a mechatronics program to help 18 people. However, a year later, and almost none of that money has been spent on mental health, violence, and the unsheltered. We've spent around $2 million on workforce development. I welcome the steps that City Manager Seawood has done and the city staff this last year. They've opened and kept Wabash available when it's above 9 degrees, which we're very grateful for. I read about the purchase of the building today. That's yay. And access to hygiene with mobile showers and using some available resources.
That's from City Council meeting last night. Folks getting up. We want that ARPA money. We want it used for homelessness so they can go and shower and mental health issues, things like that. This thing with the homeless shelter just blows me away because nobody seemed to have gotten their head around the majority of you. And talk to these homeless people, not the panhandlers. Those are two different things. I'll bet you 95% of the time the panhandlers are not homeless. Most homeless people don't panhandle. But you talk to these homeless people, they don't want to be in a home. They don't want a shelter. It doesn't fit with their lifestyle. And we want to throw more and more of your money at it. So they can shower. One of the things happened, City Council meeting last night. There's some, by the way, funny highlight last night I do want to get to. First of all, I want to tell you, Mazzie Boyd, who is running for, she ran for the Missouri House in the 2nd District, kind of far northwestern Missouri. She was supposed to be here. She's not there, which bums me out. She's 20. I think she's 24. She filed when she was 23 years old. If elected to that 2nd District, youngest rep to ever serve in the Missouri House, along with Elijah Haar, who's now in the Zimmer family, incidentally.
Now, did you confirm that you scheduled our phone call for the correct time and date?
Yes, I have fact-checked that.
She's already on it.
But I do think
she's on it.
It really does bring up an interesting question, though, and I do think, we've elected the oldest presidents, ever, it feels like.
He turns 80 in the next few weeks.
Right. And so I feel like people are kind of considering, okay, in Missouri, once you turn 70, you're kicked off the bench as a judge. I mean, that's just how it goes. And they just are like, well, you're too old to be a judge, which I have opinions about.
That's so harsh.
Right? I feel like it.
Happy birthday. You're fired.
I mean, I feel like, some people at 70 would probably be ready to go.
Yeah.
Not go, but get off the judge's bench.
And years ago, 70 was much older than it is today, right? And lots of people live well beyond 70. And, anyway, I have opinions about that. However, but I do think voters are considering, should we be electing people who are 75, 80 when they're going to, be serving in office? And so the other question then is, should we elect someone who's 24? Because I think a lot of people probably have opinions about that. Do they have enough life experience? Where are they at? And, ultimately, I think everyone is kind of self-interested. And so I like to elect people who are like me, who have kids, who I feel, who maybe own a business, who I feel like are in my life position because I feel like they will represent me well. And I feel like everyone kind of is in that position a little bit. Being someone that's my age, do I feel like younger people are responsible enough to be in office? I think so. And I think too, they give a fresh perspective, right? And I think when we hear things from different lenses and different perspectives, different generations, we ultimately come to a better conclusion, I think.
Well, I think the other thing, and I'd be really fascinated if hopefully she'll be able to come on, because she defeated a very popular, prominent incumbent in Randy Railsback, who's from Hamilton.
Yeah.
And Randy Railsback was a powerful lawmaker and beat him with 62% of the vote. Now, that is a very Republican district. There is a Democrat, a guy named Louis Pontius, who's running. But it's a very Republican district. For all intents and purposes, barring something unforeseen, she'll be there. But I'd be very fascinated, not only her platform, which I've heard a little bit about, but how was she able to do that against a popular incumbent? Yeah. That really surprised me. There were several incumbents that got beat in primaries, but that may have been the biggest surprise to me.
Yeah, that was, it was a huge win for her, 23, 24 years old, and I think that was part of the bigger part of this. She challenged a Republican incumbent,
powerful,
and won
in her own party.
Yeah, that's crazy.
It has, and again, this gets better. Exactly, John. And this gets right back to what you and I have talked about the realignment in rural Missouri. For John and I, we remember Bob Griffin. Bob Griffin represented that district. He was the longest served in Cameron. That was, heavily Democratic, even through the 90s, and now it is a staunchly Republican district. It is completely flipped in 20 to 25 years. That was all Democrat up there, all Democrat.
Let me ask you this, Brian. If you were on the Missouri Supreme Court and they kick you off when you turn 70, how many years from now would you be kicked off?
If I was a judge, you're talking about?
Yeah.
19. So
Stephanie, how many years before you would be kicked off as a judge?
No comment. But we basically have 3 judges, I think, within the span of like 5 years that will be forced to leave the bench.
That's
I think
true.
It's close to that.
Yeah, that is an interesting, that issue about, and there is no age limit, by the way, in terms of maximum age that someone can serve in the General Assembly. But it is set by the Constitution. You have to be 24. I don't believe anyone's ever challenged that. I'd be curious if it ever was challenged. Is that even constitutional? I mean, hypothetically, Ohio, you can be elected to the House of Representatives there at 18.
And remember, probably Marsh is the only one amongst us who would remember this, but like when Kennedy was elected president. However, he's, at 35? Yeah. And people thought, well, he's too young to be president. And he was 35. Yeah. Marsh.
Kit Bond was 33, I think, when he was elected governor.
Producer Hannah, Brian Hounsworth, Stephanie Bell. My name is Branden Rathert. So we've reached out to Mazzie. We thought she was going to be here. I'm really bummed.
Hopefully she'll come back on.
But here's somebody who says she knows Mazzie. Her name is Amanda. Amanda, welcome into Wake Up Mid-Missouri on 93.9 The Eagle and News Radio 104.5 KWOS. What can we do? What's going on with Mazzie? Do you know?
I just want to vouch for her. She's a good girl.
Yeah.
She's from my small town of 700 people. I went to high school with her mom. She was a year younger than me, so whatever happened, she's probably got a good reason. So.
Well, thank you. And how cool of you to call in and get her back. I dig the way you think, Amanda. Where did y'all grow up?
Stewartsville, Missouri. It's in between Cameron and St. Joe on Highway 36.
Stewartsville, Missouri. And
there was like 20 people maybe in our total high school classes.
No kidding. What
200 kids K through 12.
So what do you remember about her from school?
So I went to high school with her mom, and I just know her for when she was tiny because then I moved down here to Columbia. But I know she worked in the White House with Trump, and she pounded the pavement. All of those towns are, 300 to 700 people towns, and she went to all the businesses and the homes. So I just want to vouch for her. She is a good girl.
Well, thank you. And we will have to let her, now when we refer to you, when we do talk to her, will she know who you are? Hey, by the way, Amanda called in. She had your back, man.
She wouldn't know who I was, but her mom would.
All right. Well, Amanda, I just think that's really cool that you would call in and vouch for Mazzie Boyd, who 23-24 would be one of the youngest persons to ever serve in the Missouri State Legislature. We appreciate you being a part of Wake Up Mid-Missouri. We hope you have a great day, Amanda.
All right, thank you.
All right, bye-bye. How cool is that? Somebody call it, just so you know, she's cool, man. She's cool. I love that. Yeah. Getting somebody else's back, man. There's a lot of power in that.
You've talked, Branden, about the importance of young people, whether they get involved in the Green Party or the Democratic Party, Republican Party getting involved. I mean, it's good. She's a young person, and obviously the clear favorite here. But when the caller mentioned Stewartsville and Maysville, and I believe she mentioned Cameron as well, those are very poor communities. I mean, very poor, very little industry up there. The prison and the veterans home there's both of those. Actually, when Bob Griffin was speaker, he got 2 prisons up there. One of them's closed since then. That prison would have never closed had he still been the speaker. But that's basically the only industry they have.
Ideally, we'll get her on soon. So this did happen in Jefferson City yesterday.
If all the tax credits in this bill were used, it'd be $40 million a year. And I think agriculture is a $94 billion industry.
$94 billion industry. Bradley Pollitt from the legislature. He is in the House from Sedalia, moving forward on ag tax credits. Talking about that $94 billion industry in Missouri. And that's a number that always gets kind of, they say, well, that's the industry, but what about the peripheral industries? There are a bunch of different numbers. Still, $94 billion, pretty substantial. That's one of the things that happened at Jefferson City yesterday. Here's the thing about progressive mindsets, and I'll go to the J6 hearings. Trump made those people do all that stuff on January. Trump didn't make anybody do anything. You are responsible for your own actions. I'm not responsible to take money out of my wallet and build a homeless shelter because people have made a series of choices in life. I'm not to blame for that.
Or for your big student loans that I now have to pay back. Thank you very much.
That's right. Student loans.
Thank you very much is exactly right, Stephanie.
Stephanie Bell is not responsible. You went, you signed, and you said, I will pay this back. Stephanie's not responsible for paying it back. But we see progressives like Joe. Yeah, everybody else has to pay for it. We see this movement in Colombia. Listen, we have some people that made some bad decisions. And so now we want to take Brandon and Steph's and Hannah's money. We want to build them a home. No! Let me take my money and build my own home. And this was on full display last night in the city council. Everybody else is responsible except for the criminals and the bad people.
What have the businesses done in terms of their business practices to improve safety? And are some of their practices contributing to an unsafe city?
Maybe it's the business's fault. What are their practices? So they're talking about this surveillance system, which should not be installed. It would just tap into cameras that are already in place. And by the way, I am okay with this. I rather appreciated the sentiments and all this. I think it's Randy Smith, downtown attorney, who says, not a big fan of surveillance, but this is beneficial.
And I would be cautious about using the word tap in because it's tap in with the business's permission, which we went over with Chief Jeff Jones. But essentially, he just said it's a timing issue. Like if something happens on Friday night after that business is closed, say it's, professional services business, they're going to go Monday morning and try to get the camera feed. They're going to ask the business, hey, can we have the feed? They're going to say, yeah. And he said, essentially, they're going to give pre-permission, authorize them and say, hey, yeah, if you need it, you can get the video feed, and he would get that Friday night rather than Monday morning, which helps so much in trying to do the investigation and catch these folks.
So they're not building a surveillance system with a business's permission. They can see what that business owner would see on a surveillance camera that is already in place. Ideally would help them stop crime. I am totally, and I'm just like that attorney, and all of a sudden I forget it, Randy Smith maybe. Not a big fan of surveillance stuff, but listen. We're under surveillance right now, and you can monitor it on our YouTube channel.
Yeah, if we're already being surveilled, right, and you're going to get it on Monday, then I'd rather you get it Friday and catch the guy. Let's do this, or gal.
So that was one of the things that came up last night. Pat Fowler, I think she's first ward. She likes to hear herself talk. That is my personal opinion. You watch any city council meeting, and I think she's really caught up in the sound of her own voice. And she asked a question of the mayor saying, hey, it used to be in these city council meetings, you get questions answered right away. So she has a question.
Where people ask questions. And it used to be that you could get your question answered when you asked a question. If you came up here and asked a question, either staff would answer it or a member of council would give you that information. Can we return to that practice?
I guess that was before my time, and I don't remember it happening with the previous mayor either, where we respond to questions. Usually, that's why at the end, we've made the note, and that's why usually I'm responding to things that came up during public comment.
So there you go, Pat. Get your question answered. Can we ask questions and get answers? Yeah, and here's your answer on that. My goodness. Coming up, we are going to do What's Hot with Hannah. What do you have for us today?
Well, there was a classic example of karma being a you-know-what during one of last night's NFL football games.
I love Good morning, 7:25-ish, which means it's
It's 7:27.
time for What's Hot with Hannah.
Can't even blame it on a guest this time either.
It was a lack of a guest, and I'm still running behind.
You know, have there ever been moments in your life where you see karma being like instantly served to someone and it feels good?
It does. It is a feeling. It's not just that it's cool to watch. It feels good.
Like maybe somebody's driving like an idiot and they fly by you on the highway and then a couple miles down the road you see they got pulled over. Yeah. You know, it's just instant gratification, right?
Yeah.
Well, that happened during one of last night's NFL games. The the Chargers were playing San Francisco. And somebody decided to storm the field. So a fan hopped the fence and thought it would be a great idea to go run across the field. He had a pink smoke bomb, because why not?
Wait, was it a gender reveal? Oh,
now
man.
That has not been confirmed. But
was he wearing clothes?
He was wearing clothes. He had some website on his T-shirt he must have trying to get, some publicity for. But it was going really well for him. The security guards weren't catching up to him. And then he got a little too close to the Chargers sideline, and two of the linebackers took care of it. He basically had 500 pounds of linebacker take him out, and then security quickly grabbed him.
Crazy. And you watch it, and you're like, yes, karma.
So if you want some instant gratification, some instant payoff, there's a video on the Wake Up Facebook page.
It's pretty good stuff. Check it out. And probably next level gender reveal. Not only am I going to blow up a pink golf ball or whatever it is that they're doing, are people still doing the gender reveals, or do they finally go, you know what?
Oh, they're still doing it. God. I don't know that there have been any major mishaps like burned down houses or anything lately, but
yeah. Marsh, are we clear on our opinions on gender reveals? Yeah, those ones suck. Hey, coming up a few minutes from now, why Hispanics are switching from the Democrat Party to the Republican Party. Supreme Court of the United States of America back in session. Who's really running the court? And a hilarious lawsuit from a political, satirical website. We're covering those stories 5 minutes from now here on the show.
I'm a doubtful voter now.
As I got older and smarter, I said, hey, this guy doesn't work for me.
We're not just going to blindly vote in one particular direction. We're going to vote in the direction of folks who are going to be paying attention to the issues that are important to us.
I feel like the Democratic National Party looks at my demographics and assumes that I'm going to vote for them. I'm a Latina woman that historically has been the party's bread and butter.
MSNBC doing a great story. They went to several border states and talked to regretful Biden voters, of which there are many, even where we live here in mid-Missouri, regretful Biden voters that are black, Hispanic, whatever, white. We don't need to put labels on it. But say there's a bunch of regretful Biden voters that are Hispanic, and that's even bigger because Democrats assume, remember what was it Joe Biden said several years ago? If you're black and you don't vote for Joe Biden, then you ain't black.
Right.
Or something to that effect. I probably don't have the quote 100% accurate.
Probably not.
But you get you're black. You're supposed, you come with voter registration at your birth. You vote Democrat. You register to vote in the Democrat Party because of the color of your skin. One of the most racist things ever. How is it that sometimes successfully Democrats label conservatives as racist? They are the most racist people I know. Between the comments from Kamala Harris regarding black people get money first from the hurricane, Nancy Pelosi, no, keep the immigrants down there in Florida. They need to pick the crops. How is it they have sometimes successfully labeled Republicans as racist? I don't get that. And listen, you can say racist things. There's a difference between saying and doing. You can say racist things.
No, you can't. Don't do that.
You can do racist things, and I think that speaks louder than saying racist things. Somebody could toss out a word or something. Doesn't mean they're racist. Just means they used a racist word. It's just a word. But when you act like you're supposed to vote for me because you're black, that's beyond words. That is true racism because of how you're behaving.
Or if you say we should dole out hurricane relief based on your color or anything, that's hard.
That's beyond words. That is action. That is the epitome of racism that these progressives, wow. And there's more. So MSNBC, they did this story. They're chatting with these Hispanic, regretful Hispanic Biden voters. And like, we're not voting for you just because our skin is brown. What the hell are you people saying? And I love, before we move forward, because some interesting stuff with the Supreme Court of the United States we want to get into. But so they're asking, and this is in conjunction with Telemundo. So what is it? Why are you backing away? Why are you getting out of the Democrat Party? And so this woman's giving an answer, and then the guy has a follow-up question. The reporter does, and the answer is awesome.
Because the fact that the Democratic Party has changed a lot, and identify more with the Republican Party.
What things?
Well, we're for God, country, family, and hard work.
We're for God, we're for family, we're for country, and we're for hard work. She's saying as a Hispanic, that's what we're about. And that does not, and I think you could argue most Americans are that way. They just don't know it because they get blindsided by progressives. You need to vote this way so we can bring the food truck by to get you an abortion on a Friday afternoon, which is a thing in Illinois. They're doing mobile abortions in a food truck, and they're driving around. I don't know what's a food truck, but they're driving around the border of Illinois. Did you see, have there been any pictures yet, John, on this? It's an RV. They're just traveling around. Annie, pulling up, honking the horn. You ready for your 2 o'clock abortion? That's how they're doing it in Illinois. State run by progressives, incidentally. Welcome to the show. It's Wake Up Mid-Missouri. Stephanie Bell, producer Hannah, Brian Ellsworth, John Marsh. My name is Branden Rathert. Something we can do for you, 874-9390, 874-9390 off the text. Rick, actions speak louder than words. Yep. Jill Biden called the Mexican tacos. Didn't she say something racist too?
Yeah, she did.
Yeah. How crazy.
I think she was in San Antonio and said like the people are
something
as good
as
as
tacos.
Yeah, she made some reference.
Also off the text, I lived in Texas for several years, worked with a lot of the Hispanic community culturally. Family and God. are important for many of them, like what we just heard from this Hispanic voter here. Family and God. Never made sense to me that a lot of Hispanics align with the Democratic Party because they are not aligned with family values. They are not aligned with God. They're aligned with racism and blaming everybody else for problems. Nobody's responsible. And they also are for taking my money and giving it to other people for other things. Supreme Court of the United States, a couple of big things happening there. Number one, new member.
Yeah, Ketanji Brown Jackson first sat Monday for argument. They had like the formal investiture last week, but yeah, a new member.
Punch and little appetizers and stuff.
Right.
They get together. This is Ketanji Brown Jackson. Ketanji is everybody else. And then they are going to be covering, obviously, some big territory. First time since, obviously, the Dobbs decision passed down earlier this year. But I love this. I don't know if you're familiar with The Onion. It's a political, satirical website. And it's good. I mean, it's next level stuff. There's a good chance you may have seen on Facebook and taken it as fact stories that come from The Onion. People see it and they go, oh, this must be true. It's not. It's a hilarious website.
Well, and if you haven't heard of it, you're in the minority because The Onion in its brief says it employs 350,000 people and it's read by 4.3 trillion people and has grown into the single most powerful and influential organization in human history. So they filed a brief, and this is not like in a pending case. It's for a writ. So essentially there are folks asking the court to take this case. And in that case, there was a guy, Anthony Novak, and he spoofed an Ohio police force. He was posting on Facebook, and he published two posts. One had an announcement of a new police position, and it said they were hiring, and they strongly encourage minorities not to apply. And he had another one, and he promoted a fake event in which child sex offenders could be removed from the sex offender registry and accepted as an honorary police officer. Now, regardless of whether or not you agree with his post, The Onion's just saying, hey, like, we have a right to make fun and just. What?
Whoa.
Brandon just tried to get on The Onion and it's down. Did someone hack it?
So?
Or did this article crash their website because it's so hilarious?
So The Onion is legitimately suing?
They're not suing. They filed a brief and said, hey, we are in support. So that guy was basically
spoofing the cops.
Yeah. And I think and he tried to he filed a suit, and anyway, they're asking the Supreme Court, hey, you should review this because he was acquitted of criminal charges, and then he sued the police for violating his constitutional rights. The Federal Court of Appeals said, no, the officers have qualified immunity, and threw out his lawsuit. And now he's saying, no, my lawsuit shouldn't have been thrown out. Supreme Court, please take this case and review it. And The Onion is coming in, backing him up, and saying, us too, you should take this guy's case because we should all have a right to, parody. And one issue, and like you brought up before, is whether people reasonably believed that his posts were true. Right. And that's something that's kind of being considered. And the Onion said, yeah, people all the time repost our stuff and think it was true. Apparently more than once, people have republished as true. Apparently the article that went viral was the 2012 article that North Korean leader Kim Jong-un was the sexiest man alive. And people reposted that as true.
I'll share this with my coworkers.
Anyway, so The Onion's brief is full of jabs at the federal judiciary, which they called total Latin dorks. But also, so they write a brief, and it's somewhat, they have a good argument to make, but they also add a lot of humor in there. And he says, as the Globe's premier parodies, is that a word? Yeah. The Onion's writers also have a self-serving interest in preventing political authorities from imprisoning humorists. And so it's an interesting take by The Onion. Oh, did their website come up, or is it still down?
So, yeah, the website is down now, which is interesting. I'm looking at some of the classic The Onion headlines. In case you're not familiar, kind of give you an idea with what the Onion does. Headline, kitten thinks of nothing but murder all day. Study reveals babies are stupid. World death rate, and this is true, though, actually. This is not satirical. The world death rate holding steady at 100%. That's actually factual. That's not satire. And incidentally, in the Supreme Court, there's going to be some big cases, gerrymandering and things like that. And I'm wondering, with Clarence Thomas's wife in D.C. talking last week about the January 6th stuff, is so like who's Is there like a boss in the Supreme Court of the United States? Does somebody have like gold bars on their robe to indicate they're the sergeant or something?
Well, according to SCOTUS blog, which a lot of Supreme Court watchers follow, they say John Roberts is the chief, but it's Clarence Thomas's court. So really it is. So he was known for years and years of not asking any questions, right? Being kind of like the silent justice. But then they kind of changed the protocols during COVID because they had to, the way the arguments went, and they kind of called on different people. So now, because of his seniority, he asked the first question. And the article, I think, concludes and points out one of the really impactful cases that the court is going to hear this term is on affirmative action, specifically in relation to admissions, higher ed admissions. And they say, I liked this line, they concluded Clarence Thomas, it's most likely author of this opinion is what they're saying. We probably won't get it until next summer, right? But they said its most likely author is Clarence Thomas, the justice who now asks all the first questions and more often than not gets the last word. So very powerful.
Power move. Coming up 5 minutes from now here on Wake Up Mid-Missouri. National, do you know what presentism is? Presentism. I hear it and I'm like, oh yeah, I hear it. I'm like, yeah, I know what it means. Presentism and how it could apply to a famous national monument. Maybe I don't think it'll ever happen, but I also never thought, because the national monument, I would not be surprised if it were to come down in the next few years, but I think, they're never going to tear down a national monument. But I also said when people joked years ago, you know what? The progressives are so crazy about abortion, they're going to start doing mobile abortions. They're just going to drive a van around town and perform abortions in the back of the... They're doing that. They are doing that in Illinois. This
I'm not a good person to ask for things. I don't like to ask for help, but I have to let it go and realize I need to ask for help right now.
That's Tanya Roth. Her home burned down in Jefferson City a couple of days ago. Apparently, middle of the night, they were charging a generator or something, and it popped. And she's got a husband who is disabled, and she's got a daughter who is a veteran who's trying to help them out. To trying to raise funds, get a place to stay, and get some things. Meanwhile, because their home has been destroyed, and that's cool. But I thought the other thing is, she says, I am not one to ask for help. Isn't that one of the hardest things to do in life? Sometimes when you don't know something, or what, to say, hey, I need help, or something that you simply can't handle. To say, hey, I need some help with this. That can be hard.
Yeah, and I mean, fires like hurricanes and water. I mean, it is just devastating, and just losing everything from your memories to your actual physical things. It's really hard.
She's coming out and asking for help at a time when you don't want to have to ask for help, to say, hey, we just lost our home. My husband, I had to carry my husband out of the bedroom because he's disabled and can't walk. And now I got to ask for help.
And I've seen it time and time again. These mid-Missouri communities come to the rescue of folks, whether it be fire or something else. I mean, it's such a generous, Columbia and Jefferson City, so generous in helping people in a time of need, even when they have to ask or even when they don't ask. And luckily, I think they've got a daughter, and other community members are saying, yeah, let's rally around these folks and help them out.
Welcome to the show. This is Wake Up Mid-Missouri. Thank you for being here. If there's something we can do for you, you can always reach out, 874-9390, 874 9390. If there's something we can do for you, or you comment, you hear something we talk about on the show, want to comment on it, feel free to do that. October the 4th, 1927. Some folks in kind of a Midwestern/Western state went to work on some monolithic rock wall, started blowing stuff up, and they had this big vision in mind that eventually, and people thought them silly. You're never going to be able to do this. You can't undertake this project. It will never happen. It was on October 4th, 1927, that construction started on Mount Rushmore, blowing out some of the granite and starting to carve and all that good stuff. And by the way, have you ever been to Mount Rushmore, John? I went there, I don't know, it's been 15 years ago. It wasn't a place that I wanted to go because I lived out west. I lived in Idaho, all the mountains and everything right there. I don't want to go to Mount Rushmore. I would recommend, if you ever get the opportunity, go to Mount Rushmore. It's number one, it's in the Black Hills, so it is kind of mountainous. It's kind of nice. And it was, do you remember, even though you were a little kid, maybe it was a different experience. I went as an adult. Do you remember that moment when you first walk up to the thing, John? No. There's that. For me, it was kind of, and again, I was an adult. If I were a kid, I'd probably go, oh, that's cool, man. You can see right up Abe's nose. But as
you would still say that. What are you talking about?
That's true.
You would 1,000% still say that.
I haven't been. It's on my bucket list for sure.
It's actually, it's more beautiful than what I thought it would be. But I wonder, because there's serious talk now, and I laugh. They're never going to tear down a national monument, but I was also one of those that said they're never going to do mobile abortions in a van, and they're doing that in Illinois.
An RV, Brandon.
An RV, my bad. Sorry, it's an RV. But they want to tear it down because the four presidents that were featured in there, they were pieces of crap because of presentism. Presentism, that's where we use current day standards to judge people. Seriously, I can't think of it. I think that's what it is.
Yeah.
Where we say, hey, this is what we do today, but because of what you did 200 years ago, you owe me some money. You owe me some equity because of what happened 200 years. Well, and it wasn't you that did it, but it was people that had the same color skin as you. So you owe me some money. You owe me some reparations. That's presentism. Judging things now based on stuff that happened several hundred years ago.
Why do we always have to tear something down? Like, if you want a new Mount Rushmore with 4 different people, why don't you raise the money, convince the government to build it, and then you can have your own thing somewhere else? Let's see how many people show up to that.
Yeah. And you can look at what happened in Boone County a year ago. They fought tooth and nail to pull down those murals in the courthouse because they thought, well, they show things that happened in our history and it makes some people uncomfortable. Let's tear them down. They took them down. And then what did they do? 1 year later, scrape some dirt off the ground where somebody had been hanged and put that in the courthouse. Look, here's some dirt where a dude was hanged. That's your point exactly. Why do we have to tear stuff down? Yeah, man, we did some stuff back then. We, not me. 874-9390. 874-9390. Coming up a little bit after 8 o'clock here, 8:10. FEMA is changing their name to PREMA, the PR, Emergency Management.
Fake news.
That's an Onion headline, but I'm going to offer some evidence to why we should do that, Your Honor. We're going to do that. Stay with us. We're doing that at 8:10.
It is time for us to do what we have been doing, and that time is every day.
I have a motto. I eat and drink no for breakfast.
I eat no for breakfast. I eat no for breakfast. There is no vaccine for racism. Talking about the significance of the passage of time. The significance of the passage of time. There is great significance to the passage of time. This virus, it has no eyes, and yet it knows exactly how we see each other and how we treat each other. And when folks vote, they order what they want, and in this case, they got what they asked for.
It's the vice philosophizer, Kamala's greatest hits there, here on Wake Up Mid-Missouri. And one of her latest greatest hits now is the Federal Emergency Management Agency coming to the rescue. And this is not unlike what happened a couple of weeks ago when Joe was on the 60 Minutes. And next Monday, following that interview on 60 Minutes on a Sunday, you had all of these people from different agencies within the administration coming on to the national news outlets, try to clean up whatever it is that Joe had said the night before on 60 Minutes. And now FEMA is having to come and clean up a mess left by Hurricane Kamala. I want to get to that, but first, quick phone call from David, who is in Perry this morning. David, welcome into Wake Up Mid-Missouri. What can we do for you?
Good morning. I'll tell you what, it's just nothing. This is better than Comedy Central. Our vice idiot, I'd love to ask her two questions. First off, I'd like to know what's up in that head besides air. And second of all is, if you truly want this equity stuff, she needs to remember, well, she don't know her math very good. United States, there's 13% black. If she wants true equity, then 13% should just be it. But, we are truly blessed for being generous, and we wouldn't go that route. But if she really wants true equity, 13%, and that's all that should be.
David, thank you for the phone call. We appreciate you listening to Wake Up Mid-Missouri this morning on 93.9 The Eagle and News Radio 104.5 KWOS. We'll get to our next thing. But first, let me introduce Mr. John Marsh. How are you today, bud? Good morning. Mr. Brian Houseworth.
It's good to see you, sir.
Sporting the Cowboys, Wyoming Cowboys sports shirt. Just so you know something about...
I didn't see it.
What were you saying, Brandon?
How long has this been going on?
Almost an hour.
So, while you're out doing news and stuff, Brian, Marsh, you in on this too? So Hannah has this new game. It's pretty entertaining, I guess, actually. Where she does goofy things with my camera, because you can watch the show.
Yeah, you can watch us on our YouTube channel, Wake Up Mid-Missouri. And if you're watching this morning, you'll get an up-close and personal view of Branden Rathert himself.
It's like Robert Redford, Michelle Pfeiffer, up close and personal.
It's like people who put their face on billboards. Your face is like...
I look like a real estate agent on the side of a car.
But no, I did that. Earlier this morning, you were talking about like Ring doorbell cameras.
Yeah.
And how, people are watching you all the time.
Yeah.
And I zoomed in when you were talking about that because I thought it was fitting. I noticed you didn't notice that I did that, so I just left it.
You know what would be cool is if we get Columbia Police Chief Jeff Jones to include this in on that Fusus surveillance thing they want to do. Yeah, put Wake Up Mid-Missouri in that rotation, Chief. By the way, they talked about that city council meeting last night. And the things that I heard two people earlier, City Councilwoman Pat Fowler wanted to know, basically, I'm not quoting her verbatim, but basically we're going to start arresting more white people if we get this video surveillance thing going. It's not, I keep using surveillance. It's not the right phrase.
It's cameras that are already there. And the way the chief explained it to us is just a timing issue. Rather than having to wait a while to get the permission to get the video feed, they're going to be able to access it more quickly.
And I would encourage a councilwoman and the public to read the report. I mean, they explained it in there what that's going to be used for. It has to do with being able to use the video to make arrests for because sometimes if they, a perfect example is there was a shooting. And, John, you remember there were two suspects from Jefferson City. because it's so hard to get witnesses to come forward. This was earlier this year, and the guy from Jeff City, the main suspect, had a prior criminal record. There would have been probably people that were afraid to come forward. They didn't have to worry about it because they were able to get surveillance video from witnesses, 2 or 3 different businesses that put him at that location. That's basically what this is.
So, yeah, it's just, hey, businesses, I would bet most, especially in that downtown area, they've already got surveillance videos. Somebody is watching you, is what this would do. Businesses would have the opportunity to opt in to allow the police department to see their video stuff. So if somebody gets, how many times, listen, especially in certain parts of town, how many times somebody been shot, ain't no witnesses because you don't talk. Snitches get stitches. This could help with that.
And I would go back to 2001, October 2001. What if we would have had good surveillance cameras when Kent Heitholt was murdered in that parking lot? And there were, Premier Bank had some cameras at the time, but remember that was 2001. The technology wasn't very good, and it was very, my understanding from being, hearing stuff in court, basically it just wasn't very good video. Now it's much more high tech, and we've seen several cases clearly where video has been used to make arrests, and also they're starting to use license plate readers too. That's how the 2 guys were caught from the Mosier's homicide.
Oh, yeah.
It was license plate readers.
Do you know there's license plate readers out there on 63?
They're right there,
surveilling you right now. You're always. Anyhow, I know the Civil Liberties Association is not a big fan of this, and then Mr. Beats.
Yes, Dan Beats.
Dan Beats is saying, I don't know about this. Who's the attorney down? Is it Scott Thomas?
It's the gentleman from downtown that you and I read because I printed that letter. His name is Scott Wilson.
Scott Wilson, who says,
Yes.
listen, I'm not a big fan of surveillance either, but this is something, we're not installing anything except we're giving businesses the opportunity to let the Columbia Police Department opt in, see their stuff. So when stuff happens in real time, here's how it would work.
And it's basically that. I think that's the key. The opt-in is really the key.
Somebody could pull it up and go, oh, look, okay, there's a car speeding away from the scene. It's got this license plate. It's got 20-inch rims. It's black. It's this. And that's the kind of tools it would give them.
Mm-hmm.
So anyhow, so the thing on the video, and it was supersized. It was it was the nose cam. Is Marsh called? How long?
Zoomed way in.
So the new game that Hannah is playing, she does funky things with our video feed, which is another reason you should be watching Wake Up Mid-Missouri on our YouTube channel. And then I guess you try to wait, see how long it is before I figure it out.
Yeah.
How long?
It usually takes a while.
Okay, and how long was it this morning?
About an hour.
About an hour. Is that a record?
Yeah, actually. Every time I've played this game, you beat the record.
I'm getting better, man. I'm getting better.
Nah, technically worse.
Definitely
well,
worse.
because I don't look at the cameras. I don't pay attention for a couple of reasons. Number one, I'm doing a radio show. Number two, I know what I look like, and I'm not real impressed. So I don't like to look at the camera.
You don't always know what you look like, though, on the stream because I'm screwing with the camera.
That's true. So Kamala Harris, we know about the comment she made the other day, just incredibly racist comments. We are going to give preferential treatment from people that have just been through a horrendous natural disaster. But if you have a certain skin color, we're going to favor you.
And so we have to address this in a way that is about giving resources based on equity, understanding that we fight for equality, but we also need to fight for equity, understanding not everyone starts out at the same place.
Yeah, we all started with our asses kicked by a hurricane. We did all start in the same place, Ms. Vice Philosophizer. So now you've got the Federal Emergency Management Agency. We're changing the name this morning from FEMA to PREMA, Public Relations Emergency Management Agency. This is Dina Criswell coming because people legitimately, and now think about this, you've got a very incredibly powerful administration who just unilaterally wiped out a lot of student debt.
Yep.
Just have unilaterally done some things that people are freaked out. So when you have the vice philosophizer saying, black people are going to get preferential treatment, we'll put them at the front of the line because of the color of their skin. You can imagine a lot of these other people that had their homes and lives destroyed are like, so I'm white, I'm going to have to wait as much because of the color?
But do you think she's lost her credibility? You think people are believing what's coming out of her mouth now? My only question is it word salad or word soup coming from her? Now that we're going into fall, is it word soup? That's what I want to know.
So now FEMA is cleaning up her comments.
That we are going to provide assistance to all Floridians because we know that there are people that are just completely devastated from this storm. We are going to be there to support everybody that needs help. Yeah, again, Margaret, our programs support everybody.
As they should.
12 seconds. Everybody, everyone. Because people got scared. The vice president is scaring people by what she says, and the Public Relations Emergency Management Agency is having to come out. Hey, people, don't freak out. Listen, the vice president's an idiot. She doesn't know what you're talking about. Y'all did start in the same place, and that is you started with no home, devastated life because of this natural disaster.
And her comments are exactly opposite of the comedy sketch we heard on Friday. And the comedy, John Crist basically said, oh, hey, my aunt's got this $5 million property on the beach. Can you please pray for her, and make sure that the hurricane hits all the poor people and not the rich people down in Florida. And we all were like, ha, 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 And now Kamala's like, let's help all the poor people and not the rich people or whatever. And I think, it was funny on Friday to say that's ridiculous to think something that sees no color, doesn't see rich people versus poor people, that just hurricanes annihilate everybody regardless of anything, that we would pick and choose winners and losers. And Kamala is asking us to do that.
No, it's oh yeah. And here's the thing is your actions, it's just you're behaving in a racist fashion. And I don't understand why the Republican, you're racist. You said words, you shouldn't say some of those words either, but these are real life actions. That is racist. What else do we have this morning? You want to hear how Ayanna Pressley and Benny Thompson and Alejandro Mayorkas answered the question they were asked, is the border secure? There's a reporter for Fox, his name is Bill Malugin. By the way, he's on the White House's radar. He's a notch above Fox's Steve Doocy. Steve Doocy, he always asks Karine Jean-Pierre very good questions. He's never combative. He's always very polite, very factual. Well, Bill Malugin, he's been working the border for Fox. Went and talked to some of these lawmakers, Ayanna Pressley, Benny Thompson, and then Alejandro Mayorkas, Department of Homeland Security, asked them about the border. Is it secure? Here's how they answered.
250,000 unaccompanied migrant children arrived at the border since President Biden took office. Some of them trafficked, some of them drowning in the river. Any issue with that?
You gotta get the vote, man. You can shoot me a note right there in that.
Last question. Ma'am, is the border secure? Do you agree with the administration that the border is secure? We'll let you go.
That's Ayanna Pressley's answer. Silence.
Chairman, one question. In your opinion, is the border secure?
I have to go give a speech. Didn't you hear me?
I heard you. Okay. It's a quick question. Is the border secure?
Benny Thompson, who's the chair of the J6 committee, incidentally, he can't answer yes or no because he just took 4 seconds to answer. I got a meeting to go to, so I can't answer that question.
I'm Bill Malugin with Fox News. Do you have a few moments to talk about the border real quick?
I'm sorry, I don't.
So the Department of Homeland Security doesn't have time to talk about border security with a journalist from the TV. Coming up just a few minutes from now, we are going to be doing Morning Bell business news, a little twist only Stephanie Bell can give you. What do you have for us, Steph?
There's a new company that's really the fastest growing company of that type in a long time, and
Good morning, 827. Time for the Morning Bell. Business news with that little twist that only Stephanie Bell can give you.
So I think there are two ways to get really rich. One, like be like Elon and have like these crazy ideas like, hey, let's make this like electric car that also works as a boat or whatever, send people to space. And the other ways I think are just like really common sense and like stupid. And when you hear about it, you're like, why didn't I think of that? And so I just imagine these folks sitting around a table and being like, you know what we should do? We should put water in a beer can. And somebody else being like, that's stupid. And then being like, well, let's find out. And so Liquid Death apparently is the fastest growing non-alcoholic beverage company in history. They just raised some money and now they are valued at $700 million. And if you don't know what Liquid Death is, it kind of looks like a 40. And I once took it to an alderman meeting and somebody thought it was an old English because it says like Liquid Death in really like, I don't know, crazy letters.
Is that the can you brought in for us one day?
Yeah.
Yeah, it does look beer-ish.
It does, and it's got kind of like a fun logo, and it comes in, you can get it in still or sparkling or mango, I think, or lime, and a lot of times you can find it in an individual can, but it's just water. And it's nice because like I went to a concert, right? And they were just selling it by the case. It was hot. You were outside, but if you stand there and drink beer for 8 hours, you're going to have a problem. And so you can have the Liquid Death and still feel like you're having fun. And it's kind of like, oh, you can cheers on like a beer can, but it's just water. Yeah. And apparently, so, I'm thinking like, can you sell air to people? What else can you sell? What else can you put in a fancy packaging and put a cool logo on it and just be like, hey, you should pay for something that's usually kind of free, and see what happens.
You got any air back there?
Well, I really like it too because it comes in a can. The cans get really cold. So like if you're out on a boat or something, a plastic water bottle and water bottles in hot cars freaks me out. You and your weird Gatorade bottle or whatever. So like, you can get the cans really, really ice cold in the summer. And for environmentalists, they're saying, yeah, like a metal can is more environmentally friendly than the plastic bottle. But apparently, so I need one of these ideas. Do you have one of these ideas that just seems like too stupid to be good?
Not yet, but
okay.
Give me like 2 minutes and I could probably come up with something. Hey, Mazzie Boyd, she was supposed to join us earlier this morning. If elected to the House in Missouri, she would be the youngest reps ever in the state of Missouri. She joins us coming up 5 minutes from now here on Wake Up Mid-Missouri.
Moving on to Mazzie Boyd. Now, Mazzie Boyd worked in the Trump White House for a number of years. She then worked for Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene out of Georgia, and she came back to Missouri to run in this seat.
Mazzie Boyd getting an endorsement from the Missouri Firearms Coalition. Mazzie Boyd, pretty interesting story, and we're going to hear that here on Wake Up Mid-Missouri. Good morning. Welcome into the show. I am Branden Rathert, joined by Stephanie Bell, Brian Houseworth, producer Hannah, and there's Mr. John Marsh. Good morning, John. Good morning, producer Hannah.
Hello.
My dear sweet Hannah. Thank you all for being here on the show. Mazzie Boyd, she is running. If elected to the Missouri House of Representatives in the 2nd District, she would be one of the youngest reps ever in the history of the state of Missouri. So that District 2, kind of an area outside of St. Joseph. Want to welcome her into the show now. Mazzie, welcome into the show. Thank you for being here. First thing I got to ask is when people talk to you, when you're chatting with journalists, news outlets, what have you, is your age always front and center? Is that the first thing these people always bring up?
Yes, especially if they are liberal. That is the number one
Really?
thing liberals really hit me on. The liberals and, and the fake rhinos. I had so many bad pieces in newspapers. I didn't think, when I was in D.C., and you'd see the media, of course, it's a given, right? But when you come back home, you don't think that some of these papers would actually write terrible things about you or have their kids write in, letters to the editor about you. But that was always the number one thing they would talk about is my age. But when I actually talked to, real constituents that were Republican, they never cared. They were always like, this is great. We need young people.
Wow. And people are really saying those things about you. So let me ask you this, and there are some things about the age that fascinates me, but it's not because of your age, Mazzie. It's because one of the things we've been really big about on the show here for a long time is messaging to a younger generation of folks. We've got a message, the conservative, we call it the conservative message. I think it's just the American message, common sense spending, family values, things like that.
Right.
That we can all, I think, agree with, but we need to get that to younger groups. I go to a pachyderm meeting every Friday, usually at 51, Mazzie. I'm the youngest guy there. To me, that's a problem for the future of conservatives, which is why we are stoked to be chatting with you. So let me start here. Republican, I'm guessing you check all the boxes. We know where you stand with gun rights. I mean, there's nothing that would separate. What would separate you from most Republicans, Mazzie?
Oh, gosh. I mean, most Republicans, there's different parties right now to the Republican Party because we're not united. The Democrats have, they're the socialists, they're everything, but they will say united. Whereas Republican, I would tend to say I'm more of the true conservative, like a paleo conservative, which was very similar to what President Trump was. I'm all about, of course, Republicans were supposed to be reducing taxes, limiting the size of government. Those were the basic principles that our founding fathers ran on. And the Republicans really have gone away from the true platform of the Republican Party. And now it's like a middle, I would say, of they were Democrats, but now, they can't win as a Democrat. So they come over to the Republican Party and they bring their Democrat policies with them.
All right. And then what is it that you said, what was the impetus for you to even run for office?
Well, this isn't actually something that I wanted to do. It's really fun to be behind the person, when I worked with President Trump and especially, Marjorie Greene. They were both fantastic bosses, but also just great, spokespeople. They basically said what I believed, and I was like, there's no reason that I need to do anything. But when I came back home and I was looking at what was going on in Jefferson City and District 2 was an open seat, I was like, why can't we ban, boys and girls sports? This is Missouri, for Pete's sake. This should be a no-brainer. That's just one of the many things I noticed. And I was like, I really want to run for office, and I wanted to make sure that our district is being taken care of because it is very rural. So I decided to run. Of course, redistricting happened, months, after I decided to run, and they put 2 incumbents in, and I just stuck with District 2 because I was going to run, and then I won. So, that's kind of the short of it.
And by the way, challenging a Republican incumbent who wields some power here in Jefferson City, Randy Railsback in that 2nd District, like northwest, a portion of northwest Missouri, maybe a little north central. Is that the 2nd District?
Yeah, more north central. Yes,
more north central.
Little parts. Depends what county you ask.
Yeah, very rural. And also, want to ask you, so you filed to run when you were 23, correct?
Yes.
Yeah. So, and you're 23 now, still?
I'm 24, so I actually turned 24 the day after the election.
Day after the primary. Okay. Our guest, Mazzie Boyd. She's running for the Missouri State House of Representatives, 2nd District, North Central Missouri. If elected, be one of the youngest ever to hold that position here in the state of Missouri. She's joining us this morning here on Wake Up Mid-Missouri.
Yes, we love Trenton. So, right. I mean, every county is very different. I mean, there's 5 counties, and they are extremely large. I mean, I put 40,000 miles on my car just going around the entire district. So we have Worth County, which is the smallest county in the state of Missouri. It borders, Iowa. You go over to Harrison County. It's like Bethany. It also goes all the way up to the Iowa border. And then you go down, you have Grundy. We have Trenton, we have the college, and then you have Davies County, Gallatin, Jamesport. And then you go down a little bit more, and there's Caldwell. We have the quilt shop. So it is just, a whole, I think it's the size of a little bigger than Delaware. The old District 2, which used to encompass DeKalb, Davies, Gentry, and Harrison, was the size of Delaware, and this is even bigger. So it was quite the challenge being able to door knock, because this area is so rural. I mean, the reason it was redistricted the way it was because we have lost so many people. But going down gravel roads, I mean, I would go down one gravel road and there'd only be one house.
Mm-hmm. I bet that's got to be interesting when you're going door to door in a rural area.
Yeah, some people are like, what are you doing here? And I remember I was door knocking with my mom. When we go out in the country, I always brought someone. And so my mom, it was like 8:30, and she was like, it's like, she's like, put it up. She was like, nobody wants you knocking on their door at 8:30, which is true, because like, normally people don't go to someone's house in the middle of nowhere at 8:30 door knocking. Whereas like, in the suburbs, it's like, oh, okay.
Yeah, and that's kind of how some horror movies start, actually, out in the middle of nowhere, 8:30 in the morning, knock on the door. And you spent some time in the Trump administration. What was that like for you?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, it was a dream come true, because I never thought I would ever get to, work on the campaign, and then, of course, getting to work in the White House. I finally felt like, I was like, this is what I think God's calling me to do, and just being a part, like, I only played, 0.01%, in helping, President Trump, but it just felt like an honor to really learn the system, and I worked in presidential personnel, so I really got to see the bureaucracy right up close, because we were the ones that were hiring and firing all the political appointees. So it was awesome. It really prepared me, honestly, I think, for my election, because I wouldn't have had any clue how the bureaucracy worked and the establishment worked, but I really got to see that even more running against an incumbent.
And then what was it like working for Marjorie Taylor Greene?
Oh, it was awesome. Yeah. It was awesome. It was crazy how I even kind of met her, because I really had no desire to work in Congress. I had interned in the Senate, and it just is not like my favorite place. But I kind of had seen some things about her, and I thought, man, this woman's really going to shake things up. And she did, and she became famous like overnight. And so learning from her, she's one of the most genuine people I've ever met. She's someone that doesn't have talking points. Most congressmen, I would say, are full of crap. And she can talk about a subject for like 45 minutes. And she never like kind of stumbles around. Like, she's quick. She's to the point. She's I would say one of the smartest people in Congress. Nobody gives her that credit. They try to make her seem like she's a lunatic. Mm-hmm. And I will always tell people, we are against, the fake media. So don't go ahead and start believing it when it's about one of our own, because she's definitely someone that stands her ground. I'll never forget, we were in a meeting and they were trying to get her to be like pro-choice. They just kept, going at her. And she finally just like, listen, like, I'm pro-life no matter what. I don't care. Like, if you give me money, you don't give me money. She's like, my position like doesn't change. And we kind of just looked at her, and that's just how she is. Like, when she gets something in her head, like, she's not going to give up. And I think that is so important amongst politicians, is when you go down there, when you go to Jefferson City or Washington, D.C. to run on, you better stay with it, because that's why people elected you.
Mazzie Boyd, 24 years old. Now, do we have clarification? Would you be, if you are elected to the Missouri House of Representatives, repping the 2nd District, kind of central, north central Missouri, would you be the youngest rep ever or one of the youngest reps ever?
So there were 2, I believe, like back in the day, that were, they turned 24 after they were sworn in. So nobody will ever, I think, beat them. But I'm guessing, yeah, like definitely one of the youngest.
So as we talk about, Mazzie Boyd is our guest here on Wake Up Mid-Missouri. So you're talking about how kind of the press portrays Marjorie Taylor Greene and kind of what you've been getting, like for your age and stuff. Have you been mistreated by the press, by any media outlets, young, female, conservative? Seems like there's a lot of targets there for our friends in the news.
Oh, yeah. It was papers that, like, I didn't even, like, have in my district, like, kind of to the south. And even there was a paper in Harrison County. They had their daughter from New Mexico write a beautiful op-ed about me. I didn't even know these things about myself. And also, kind of just spewing out the liberal lies about Marjorie. I mean, everyone always hated me on working with Marjorie. And if they really think I'm going to apologize for working with her, like, then they don't know, like, who I am. So that was always that. It was people that weren't from the district. Of course, you had the occasional person that would write about me and it was always opinion pieces. But, they never would allow any rebuttals, like if somebody wanted to write an opinion piece.
Yep.
Yeah, they never allowed those. But it actually worked out. There's a really great story. I have it actually kind of a picture of it. But there was a, terrible op-ed right before the election, an opinion piece. They said I was a joke because I worked with Marjorie and just, whatever. And it actually brought more people out to vote. Some guy, didn't even know him. He wrote about that he wasn't even going to vote in the primary. And he had saw what this guy had wrote about me. And him and his dad went out and voted for me. And I thought, like, that was awesome.
How cool is that? And I got to get moving forward. I'm almost out of showtime here. Got to make way for Gary Nolan here at 9 o'clock. But Brian Hausworth, he's out hanging out. Our news director is with the governor right now. So I wanted to ask you, how did you beat Randy Railsback, incumbent, same party, and you beat him? 30 seconds. How'd you do it?
Yeah, I mean, I was the true Republican in the race, and people believed that. I mean, I was not afraid to answer any question. I was the one that was going up to people's doorsteps and door knocking, whereas he probably had other people doing it. And he was afraid to answer the hard questions. I mean, I was genuinely the one that truly supported Trump. I understood his mission and, of course, of having a Missouri First policies. And I don't think my opponent really realized that. And I think that's honestly what it came down to. People were excited about having me run. I had a ton of help. And at the end of the day, it was really God, because when you come to think of it, like, God is the one that puts people in position. And so I knew, regardless, win or lose, I mean, that was going to be God's decision. And so I think, at the end of the day, like, it was a God victory.
Yeah. All right. Very cool. Mazzie Boyd, this interview will be contained within our podcast. Should be up on our website, 939theeagle.com or kwos.com. Should be up by 10 o'clock this morning each and every day. You can go back and hear our conversation with Mazzie Boyd, if elected to the Missouri House of Representatives in the 2nd District, North Central Missouri. She would be one of the youngest reps ever in Missouri. Phenomenal candidate, solid human being. Anything else that you'd like to add before we let you go?
No, thanks for having me on. I really appreciated it.
And I would like, with your permission, I would like to set you. There's a colleague of mine, Scott Fawn. He has a TV show called This Week in Missouri Politics, plays in Kansas City, St. Louis, throughout the rest of the state. Also has a publication called the Missouri Times. But I think it would be a good guy for you to know, because he might want to chat with you, too, and highlight your story, okay?
Yes, okay, thank you.
All right, Mazzie Boyd. Coming up, we're going to open up the fridge.
Here's a big old serving of leftovers. Enjoy.
All right, we're going to open up the refrigerator here before we make way for the Gary Nolan Show, see what we have in the way of leftovers, some of the things we didn't get a chance to get to on the show today. We did mention this, but Marsh wanted to mention this again. One of the big things that happened, one big thing that happened last night, city council meeting in Jefferson City. Yeah. Yeah. And so it's some kind of progress, because while we sit here and debate about what do we do with those, they're historical, but they're in disrepair, they look bad, and the one caught fire, what do we do with? They're sitting there the whole time, not doing anything productive, and they continue to kind of, not look good. But a little bit of progress as it relates to that. Text 874-9390. We got to talking about water in a can instead of bottled water. Big thing is becoming canned water. And Stephanie actually turned me on to this a couple of months ago. She brought in a can of water, and I'm weird about my water, but it's just pretty good water. And we got talking about, what's next? People will buy air. And we have been getting inundated with texts from folks where you can get online, you can buy like jars of air. That just blows me away. Oxygen boost. Dale says oxygen boost. That's already a thing. It's crazy. Yeah. Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
The what now?
Great, John. Now we're going to have to explain ourselves to the future. Yeah.
What do you mean?
God.
Oh, no. And people say my generation will fall for anything.
You're right.
Wow.
You are right, Hannah. Thanks, John. Yep.
Wow.
And you'd feed it and
did you name him Rocky?
And you could name it. Oh, wow. And then we went from that to parachute pants to, gosh. All right. That's the show for today. My dad's favorite part of the day is coming up. You know what my dad's favorite part of the day is? It's when the Gary Nolan Show comes on to 93.9 The Eagle and News Radio 104.5 KWOS.